Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
You are listening to episode number 91 on the Awesomers.com podcast series. All you have to do to find out today's show notes and see all the relevant details and summary, transcription, etc. related to today's podcast, just pop on over to awesomers.com/91. Now, I'm rejoined today by Margarita Poluyko, and this is a part 2 of a 3-part series where we talk a little bit about her background, and that includes immigrating, from Belarus into the United States at a young age, and finding her journey both through some traditional employment options, then moving into the entrepreneurial options. And today, especially, we talk about some of the ups and downs that go along with that process. That, not everything is just instant success. I know a lot of old quotes that talk about, my overnight success took 20 years. But people only see the success part, so they forget all the hard work. And really, all the heartache that goes along with, trying and it coming up short, whether it's an absolute fail or it's just a long time to learn and feeling stagnant. These are critical times for us to form, information and knowledge, to collect that information and knowledge and put it in our equity folders, right? So, as you know, I like to talk about, you have intellectual equity, you have knowledge equity. These are things that can't be taken away from you. And Marguerite is a great example of all of her experiences, all of her learnings along the way became part of her foundation to build today's very successful 8-figure plus business. It's an extraordinary success story, and we're going to join this part 2 of 3 right now, and you're going to love what you hear. Don't forget to listen to the whole thing. So at the point that you were driving along and you're listening and kind of seeing this new paradigm, what did you do from there?
Well, this was just at the beginning. So again, going back to my story, we basically lost all our income, and some time had passed by. A friend of ours who had experience in insurance business, he worked for an agency. He said, "Well, you guys had experience in business. I have experience in insurance. Why don't we just open up an agency?" So we jumped on the chance and we did that. And again, we knew nothing about insurance. 6 months into it, he came up to us and he said, "Well, I'm not cut out for business, so I'm going to go back to my 9-to-5. And we were left to pick up the pieces. Again, we worked extremely hard between learning and producing. We gave it our all. We never lost money, but again, we never made enough to be able to sustain. At that point, real estate started to pick up a little bit, so we were able to manage. But from that experience, starting with doing really well, falling down, trying to get up, there are several things that I learned. The first one that I already mentioned, it is really up to me. And I can choose to make it work, and if it's up to me, I will make it happen. So if anything I learned from my USSR days is that you do it as you're told, and you better do it right the first time. So I was accustomed to doing it right. The only difference was now I had a chance to do it for myself and not somebody else. So that was the first lesson. The second, of course, it's not the number of times you fall down, but it's the number of times you get up. So you got to continue pushing and giving it your all. Now, the third lesson might be a surprising one. Even though you have to continuously push and strive, as we know, the difference between a winner and a loser, for the most part, is just that one last step that you have to take to make it. Most people don't do it. But what I learned from insurance business, you also have to know when to give up. Because that insurance business, we did sell it eventually, but we should have done it years ago, and we should have taken our time, our expertise, our efforts, and put it somewhere else. So I think there is a fine line as to pushing and then knowing when to give up.
Boy, again, I think a very salient point. We talk always about, or you hear our friend Gary Vee, he talks about hashtag hustle and work hard, day and night and 24/7 and this and that. And that's a nice comment, although I don't think it's sustainable. I'll be quite honest. I think that the more appropriate choice is to work really hard on something worth working on. And really,
right.
For me, I like to set milestones. And I wonder what your thoughts are. How do you know at that point when you should give up or when you should carry on and persevere in the face of adversity? That, as you say, a very fine line. How do you know, or what's your gut tell you?
I thought about it a lot ever since realization of it. And I think it really depends. It depends on the person. It depends on the business. It depends on the situation. But in my case, I knew in my gut a few years in that I just don't see it working. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't even matter what happens. It doesn't matter what opportunities I get. I just don't see it working. So I think knowing that in your gut, that it's not up to you, even if you do everything that you have to and you do it all right, it's still not feasible, then I think that it's time to give up.
Yeah, I definitely think it really is important that we challenge ourselves to define, all right, if this assumption we made going in doesn't come true, and that, maybe it's a couple assumptions, if those don't happen, what does that mean in terms of the viability of the business, the opportunity of the business? And there's also, in my mind, from my experience anyway, there's a little part of you that kind of knows. And when it's more and more bitter to wake up every day and do whatever it is you're doing, that's probably an indicator you're not on the right path. And you either need to pivot and make that thing work so that you don't hate your existence, or you have to say, maybe I should exit this. Forget about the ego side of it. Forget about this appearance of failure and just say, this isn't working. Let's get out of this and go, as you said, put your time and energy into something that can be more worthwhile. And that opportunity cost, people forget about it all the time. They think that this is just a simple question of, well, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to be successful. Well, they could work the same amount of work in something else and be 10 times more successful. And I think that's part of your point. So I think well said. Anything to add to that? Do you think that I'm right about that opportunity cost?
You're definitely right about opportunity cost. The only thing that I wanted to mention, my thought and idea, as far as if you wake up in the morning and you just don't feel like getting up and doing certain things, I think that could be two different things. It could be because you're a one-person operation at that point and you are forced to do things that you love, but you're also forced to do things you don't like. So to me, it's okay. That point, it's perfectly fine, because eventually, hopefully, you'll get to a place where you are able to hire people that would do all the things either you're not good at or you don't like doing. So to me, it's more about business. And like I said, I know if it's up to me, I'll get it done. But if it's up to me and I'll get it done, but in my mind, it still will not be enough, then I think it's time to give up.
Understood. Yep. I think that's a very good point. I'm going to just jump in here for a minute, take a quick break, and be right back after this. It's time for another Awesomer Review Hero, and this one I found on iTunes. It's a 5-star review, everybody, and it says the following: great podcast and guests by Transcom74. Steve Simonson interviews all kinds of talents. Very refreshing view on every subject. Free content for us avid learners. Thanks. And I say to you, Transcom74, thank you for listening, and thank you especially for leaving a review. I know that it takes time out of your day to get out there and go to iTunes and figure out how to leave reviews and so forth, and I really just want to say I appreciate it. I appreciate all the subscribes and shares, and those 5-star reviews really are something that make my day and make the entire team's day. So thank you for being an awesomer review hero. You know, one of the things that I really encourage entrepreneurs out there, sometimes they get so focused on internal objectives. I need to make this much money. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that somebody's in a solopreneur situation and they're making $50,000 or $75,000 a year. So it's not a great deal of money. You know, I'm going to say that what their take home is. It's not a huge amount of money. They're certainly not in a position of freedom from a financial perspective. But in those contexts, often entrepreneurs won't take a step back and go, well, you know, if I just spent, $1,000 a month on this resource to help me, maybe it's a part-time assistant or something like that, they could actually increase their output and increase their net income over time. Sometimes I think entrepreneurs are unwilling to make those short-term investments. What's your thoughts on that, Margarita?
Oh, I must definitely agree. I'm thinking back, hiring our first employees and the amount of relief that was, because a lot of manual labor I wouldn't have to do, right? And a lot of things that I really have no interest. And again, it's not a good return on my time investment. It's just, you're right. You have so much more opportunity to look into the growth of the business. So instead of being in the business, you are working on your business.
Yeah, very well said. And again, this premise of, we can, especially entrepreneurs, we're kind of born firefighters. We love to solve problems, and we feel actually very accomplished when we're able to solve these problems. However, if we are firefighting all day long, that's that in the business that Margarita is talking about, versus working on the business and thinking about the big picture strategic stuff. When it comes down to the manual stuff, and believe me, I've had my, houses or places full of boxes and doing my own stuff and unloading trucks myself. I've been there. The point that I want to drive home is that, as you find that these are now taking away from your opportunities to do bigger picture stuff, you got to find a way to try to pay to bring in extra talent to help you out and to make your life a little better, and certainly make your day-to-day existence a little easier. So I definitely agree with that. Any other points on that, Margarita, before we move on to the next bit?
Yes, I just wanted to make a point that we were talking about one-person operation, but people might be surprised to know that even when you have big companies, you can still fall into the same rut where, yes, you have certain departments working on their own, but as you're expanding and as you're growing, a lot of times I find myself falling into the same rut again, and I have to remind myself, step back and say, okay, am I the best person for this position? Am I the best person to be doing this? Or maybe it is time to hire someone, number one, more knowledgeable, and number two, who will alleviate me and again, allow me to step back and look at the big picture and concentrate on growth.
Yeah, I think, again, it doesn't matter what stage your business is at. It's because entrepreneurs in particular are so hardwired to do things ourselves. It is very common for us to just go, no, I can do that. And by the way, it really gets interesting when you hire somebody and the experience doesn't go as well as you expected, right?
Oh yeah.
And then your mind is going, if I want it done, I got to do it myself. Nobody can do a better job than me. And it really is it's a vicious cycle that I recommend people do not try to ride. Just know that proper management plus proper talent and skill, that is what leads to a positive outcome. If you ignore whoever you're assigning stuff to, then you have trouble. Is that your experience as well, Margarita?
Yes, most definitely. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are control freaks. They have to control everything. And It is possible no one will do a certain job as well as you do it, but sometimes good enough is enough, and you have to step back and allow that person perform, and eventually they will step up to that level if you don't micromanage.
Yeah, again, very well said. My recommendation is that people should hire their people based on their attitude, right? Are they curious? Do they want to do a great job? There's some people in this world that are just in it to kind of punch the clock and get paid, and that's fine. But if you can find somebody who's just innately curious and somebody who really they want to dig into it and they want to, that's an attitude thing. Southwest Airlines hires people based on how friendly they are. They have a profile to determine how friendly somebody is and how extroverted they are, because they know that person can learn whatever the appropriate skills are. And I hope that entrepreneurs out there listening, awesomers in general, know that it takes time to manage and develop people, but hiring the right people based on their attitudes, then their skills is very commonly a method that I've used to really great people. So Margarita, you talked about that kind of defining moment, that they started to take you and put you into the insurance business. What happened after that?
Well, eventually, as I said, we sold the insurance business, but that's what led me into physical product world, I guess. And it really started with my brother. He had approached me and told me about it and wanted to see if we can do it together. At that time, I was still running the insurance business. Real estate was picking up, and I said, you know what, sometimes a sure thing is better than especially going through a dramatic experience that I have, than something that's really none of us had experience in. So I said, why don't you try it and you let me know how that goes? So he did. And he started seeing results, and we teamed up and eventually teamed up and opened up their businesses together.
I love it. So again, this is a very normal thing for people, especially when you've faced with adversity and challenges, and at the financial housing meltdown and crisis of around 2008, 2009. That leaves a mark, right? So our risk tolerance kind of goes down as a result of that often. And so it's impressive that you guys were able, you were talking it out and you're saying, you go ahead and check it out and let's see how it goes. Knowing that if there was an opportunity there that you would hop in, but you had to maintain some stability. How did your husband like all of this at the time? I mean, the insurance business, and then, kind of this idea of looking at this other new physical products business. Was that nerve-wracking for the husband?
It definitely was, but as I said, at that point, you are really trying to grab onto anything, do anything, because when we did start the physical product business, I did not abandon insurance business or real estate business. So I basically was doing it all. I was had a full-time insurance agency to run, occasional real estate business, showing houses to do, 4 kids at the house at that point, and doing the physical products in my basement. So it was very fun.
So what I hear you saying is you're working half days. Yeah. So you had a lot of time to relax and have naps all day.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of people out there who will identify with this idea, right? Busy moms or busy parents in general, right? You got the kids you got to take care of. You got which means all the household stuff, all the school stuff, all the activities. On top of that, now you've got your day-to-day gig, your side hustle, and then your glimmer of this new idea. Everybody's balancing. I always call it spinning plates, right? People have all these plates spinning, and you don't really want any of the plates to stop spinning because then they fall off and they break.
Right.
So so at some point, oh, go ahead, Margarita.
I was just saying, at that point, we needed all of it to work. But I'm also very grateful for the support system that I had. My parents, extremely, extremely helpful. And of course, my husband and my entire family.
Yeah, boy, that makes a big difference when you have, a supportive family and friends and so forth, the team around you, because I think humans are just wired to be, kind of active group animals, right? We need to have people around us. We need to have that support. And I'm going to guess that as you were going through this, that, both the highs and the lows were shared with your parents and your siblings as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of the biggest lessons Margarita's learned and other important things. We're going to do it right after this break. We'll be right back.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others. Learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. Hey, giddy up.
Well, there you heard it directly from Margarita. So many insightful comments, and really, I really appreciate Margarita's ability to share with us her experiences. This is something that is, near and dear to her heart. She's worked her whole life preparing for the success that she's been able to achieve now, and to make the life really worth living, to support her family. Her siblings are helping her and working in the business. She is able to have a lifestyle that is supportive of her family and home life. All of these things are really inspiring and really important to bear in mind. Awesomers around the world can understand how cool it is for somebody to, emigrate and then figure out how to make the system work, figure out how to build businesses, and most of all, persevere through the times where it wasn't going, particularly awesomer. And use those pieces of knowledge as foundation for building that future great enterprise. So my kudos to her. This has been part 2 of 3. You won't want to miss tomorrow. It's part 3 in our 3-part series with Margarita. And also this is episode number 91 of the Awesomers podcast series. So all you have to do is go to awesomers.com/91 to see all of the show notes and details about today's episode. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guests, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at awesomers.com. Thank you again.